Most people think the test comes after the breakthrough. But sometimes the test is the breakthrough. And I almost failed. That was the moment. Not the couch. Not the almost relapse that didn't happen in the end. Not the screaming match with my brother. The moment was the gas station. That bus. That choice. Would I leave the pit or learn to live in it with a Bible in my hands? Because a man in the pit doesn't just fight demons. He fights the voice that says, "It is what it is. It'll be okay." I had no plan, no strength, no forgiveness I believed in anymore. Just a one-way ticket to Colorado and a brother who hadn't stopped believing in me just yet. "Here," he said, "take it." But I almost didn't. You see that familiar hell? It's magnetic. It draws you in over and over and over again. Even though it doesn't feel good, it still feels known. And when you've been in survival mode as long as I was, freedom sometimes feels like a setup. And that's how it felt to me. And that's where this parable begins. God offers your future in a form you almost refuse. Maybe for you, it's not a bus. Maybe it's a test. Maybe it's a text you've been too scared to send. A room you avoided, or a demon you're still too scared to face. The question is never, are you ready? It's, will you go even if you're not ready? It wasn't because of my bravery. I just knew I had to move on, and I was done. That piece of the process was past. And that's where the transformation actually starts. Not when you're strong, but when you actually start. God doesn't always rescue you. Sometimes he just rewires you. And the classroom is isolation. Colorado wasn't peace for me. It was healing music and morning hikes. It was pressure, silence, and most of all, exposure. But the change didn't look like winning. It looked like I was breaking over and over again. It looked like confession, telling a near stranger everything and watching him not even flinch. It looked like isolation, a borrowed couch, a cold Bible, and the same old demons whispering in my ear every single night. It looked like witnessing someone else reject the grace that I was barely learning how to receive myself. That place didn't give me a new identity. It peeled back the mask so I could finally see what was really underneath. Some of you are in that moment right now, not quite relapsing, but regretting that you ever even had hope, that something could be different, that you could actually change. Regretting that you dared to believe that something would be different this time. That you trusted that grace might actually be real. You're worried that you let your guard down and now you feel exposed. That breakthrough came, and now you can hear those old familiar voices again, whispering in your ear like they never left. Listen, all of that doesn't erase the progress. It actually reveals it. That familiar feeling is not your enemy. It's your reflection and your best friend if you let it. So if you're back in the chaos you escaped from and you're wondering if all that other shit was real, if it was worth it, I'm telling you it was. You passed that test. And now God is giving you another one, and it's time to see if all that change and all that progress was real. It's one thing to feel lost. It's another to try explaining it to someone who doesn't speak the same pain. That was me, trying to unpack what I'd just been through to my brother. Same blood, same history, different language. It was like there was a glass wall between us. He wasn't trying to judge me. He was actually trying to help. But the way it landed, it all felt too familiar, and it all felt like too much pressure to me. You can say all the right things and still miss each other completely. Because truth only transforms when it's spoken in your language, and even if that's suffering. You ever try to explain what's going on inside to someone who hasn't even lived it yet? They're not being cruel, and they actually do care. But it's like talking to a brick wall. You're both using English, but it's not even the same language. That was me and my brother that day in the car. Same blood, same face, same history, and yet everything I said, he heard completely different. I took everything he said personally, and all we did was talk over each other the whole time. If any two people should have understood, it should have been us. But it was two completely different languages. To me, sayings like one day at a time and do the next right thing and trust the process, that they mean one thing. But to him, they meant something completely different. So I made a call to my buddy Damon that I met in Colorado down at Celebrate Recovery. And I put him on speakerphone. And he said all the same things that my brother had been trying to say, but in a language I could understand. He didn't pity me, and he didn't get angry either, and no punches were pulled. He just shot me straight, told me to check myself before I wrecked myself, and it was exactly what I needed. And when the call ended, I looked over at my brother. His eyes got kind of bug-eyed, and his mouth was hanging open. And he said, "You guys talk to each other completely differently." My thought was, exactly. Because when someone's walked your same road, they don't try to fix you, they just try to get you directions. Advice is all around us, but true help is rare. So if you're in the fight right now, don't take advice from someone who hasn't been there. Find someone who has been where you are and knows the way home. Those voices are priceless. Coming back was harder than leaving for me. I thought I'd walk back in, glowing, clear-headed, confident, full of all kinds of purpose. But instead, there I was. Same streets, same people, same triggers, same spiritual static in the air. And I could feel it. And suddenly there I was wondering, did anything actually really change in me? And that's the trap for all of us. Because the place looks the same, and the people sound the same, and the pressure feels the same, then it must mean that you're the same too. But does it? No, I don't think so. Because your past got you to where you are, but it doesn't determine where you go from there. That familiar feeling isn't your enemy, it's actually your reflection. And it shows you who you really are. So when I came back from my so-called breakthrough, I didn't walk into a polished life. I walked into more uncertainty. No car, no job, no assurance that I would ever even see my kids again. Just new whispers from the same old demons. And I believed them for a minute, not because I was weak, but because I was back in that environment that got me to where I was in the first place. Some of you feel like that right now. You're not relapsing, but regretting that you ever believed things could actually be different. But listen, all that work you did, you weren't faking it. That was just the first test, and you passed it. And now, God is letting you see what's actually real. You're not in the pit anymore. You're in the forge and in the fire. It may feel like punishment. Trust me, I know. It's actually not. It's preparation. You may feel like you're in the same place, still surrounded by doubt, still misunderstood, still getting the side eye from people who only knew you when you were at your worst. But you've changed. Not because the pain went away, but because you didn't. You stayed in the fire. You didn't run. You didn't numb. You just kept showing up day after day. This isn't about survival anymore. This is about rebuilding. It's about bringing order out of the chaos of your own life. You're not just a man climbing out of the pit. You're a man laying a foundation on solid ground. That takes time. Be patient. The old voices might still echo, but they no longer get that final word. That's yours and yours alone. Because the man who walks back into the fire and builds anyway, that's the man God trusts with more. The kingdom of God is like a man who walks back into the fire, not to mourn, but to begin again and help those that are still stuck. So if you've come through the chaos, if you've stood in the test of the familiar, if you've chosen not to open that door again, then you're not weak. You're not stuck. You're still figuring it out. You're called. There's something more for you, and I know it. Drop a hammer in the comments if you felt this in any way, and tag a brother who needs this word. And if you're walking that path alone, come walk it with us on the dangerous path. That's what I'm here for. Because grace might have pulled you out of the pit, but discipline is what's going to forge you to the man God is calling you to become, and that is part of your destiny. I'll talk to you next time.
So if you like this content, please give it a rating, a review, and share it with your friends. Also, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me and what I'm all about and what I can maybe do for you, check out my website at thedangerousgentleman.org. That's thedangerousgentleman.org. Thank you for listening.